Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing a tier list of some of your guys' favorite MMA content creators, some of which are some of mine. There's really no prerequisites to make it onto this tier list. These are just ones that I feel like are very well known. People like the MMA Guru and Lucas Tracy, MMA On Point, to people that are lesser known, but I feel like deserve a spot on this list for one reason or another. We're going to be putting them in a tier list. S tier being, in my opinion, my favorite MMA content creator, or favorites. To D tier being, it's not that you're bad. If you're in D tier because you're a bad channel, I will let you know. But some people are going to be in D tier just because they have not lived up to the potential that I feel like they're at. Before we get started, please consider a like, comment, subscribe. Helps me in the algorithm. You guys have been helping me out a lot lately. And with that out of the way, let's get started. Number one is going to be Mr. Lucas Tracy. If you haven't seen him, and I'll probably do these for most of them. There's a few that I won't do just because I know you guys watch them. Lucas Tracy, we all know him. Some good takes, some bad takes. In all honesty, I think people blow it out of proportion how many bad takes Lucas has. I think his worst take, if I had to pick a worst take, would be he said the left hook of Alex Pereira was overrated. That didn't turn out too well. But to be fair, even I've had bad takes. I thought Strickland was going to beat Drakus. We all get something wrong. Lucas Tracy, I'm going to give him a point. Purely because he was one of the people that inspired me to start doing this. But I'm going to dock him a point. Because there's just sometimes he rubs me the wrong way. Sometimes he does. Sometimes he comes off too much as a dick. And he's a little bit too sportscastery for my liking. There's a lot of people that are on this list. I'm going to dock them a point because they try to take the sportscaster route. And here's the problem here. If you try that route, like the ESPN representative route, and you can't do it well, I got to dock you a point. Next up, the MMA Guru. Listen, he's going to be one of our S tiers. I'm sorry, he kind of is. MMA Guru is another one of those guys that inspired me to do it, but there's the two different reasons here, and I'm going to sound like a dick, but this is just, I'm speaking facts to you. Lucas Tracy inspired me to start it because he proved to me that you don't have to have good takes to make it big. You don't. I mean, that's what he proved to me. MMA Guru proved to me is that you can sound like our version of Eric Cartman and still become mainstream. I think people brush past that. Think of all the things that if we were any other sporting community that Guru has said that would get you immediately canceled, but because we are the best sport community, we just let it slide. That's why I love MMA. And we need to protect Guru. Because if Guru gets canceled, we're next on the chopping block. Next up, let me actually look him up. He's a lesser known dude. I'm a fan. If I say this wrong, it's either HopperoMMA or HopperoMMA. If I say it wrong, I'm so sorry, dude. I like this guy. Now, to be fair, I'm not going to pretend like I've known him for a long time. I'm not even subscribed to the dude. However, since I've started this, people have compared me to him, and to be honest with you, I think he actually puts a bit more effort into his videos, if I'm going to be brutally honest with myself here. He deserves every bit of love that he's getting, and in all honesty, I think he deserves a little bit more. Great content that he puts out, good takes. I would actually, as far as how much I enjoy him, the takes, the production value, yep. I think he's better than Lucas Tracy. In fact, he's either going to be low B tier or C tier by the end of the video. We'll get to that in a second. But I know he is above Lucas Tracy, in my humble opinion. Next up is MMA Say. Again, I'm going to try not to do this for every single one, but I feel like bro deserves a little bit more love. 25,000. The one thing that I kind of have to knock, and I understand there's only a certain amount of different types of thumbnails you can do, but I will knock a point if I feel like your style of thumbnail is too similar to other ones. And I probably should have done that to Hopper, but Lucas Tracy, MMA Say, and HopperoMMA, all have the same styles of thumbnails. Like, I've had to change my style of thumbnail so I don't copy theirs. I've been accused of copying other people's thumbnails, and all I'm gonna say is everybody's using the same thumbnails, dude. Like, we're not a very creative group of people. But I like MMA Say, dude. I really do. Oh, if it's Say or Che, I'm sorry, dude. I gotta do it. Yep, no. Lucas Tracy goes down to super high C tier. If anything's better than Lucas Tracy, instant induction into our B tier route. Now, why are they at B tier, not A tier? I feel like they have good potential, and they can get to those higher echelons. I would keep an eye out for them in the next 6 months to a year. I think they're going to get so much better at it. And if you haven't been watching them, do yourself a favor. They're probably going to pop up on your recommended right after this video. Do yourself a favor, watch it. Jesse on Fire. Listen, I used to watch Jesse on Fire religiously. Every time that I would get out of work around 4 o'clock, before I went home, I would watch a 30-minute Jesse on Fire video, connect it to my radio, and just drive home. But he's a bit much. Like, admittedly, Jesse on Fire is a bit much. I'm sure you guys have seen some of his videos. I'll give him a point for creativity, because his thumbnails are admittedly fairly creative. But I feel like he loses the plot. And this is tough. He's only had a handful of takes that admittedly are just bad. Like, I think his take on Pat Barry is extremely biased. Like, no, the fact is Pat Barry is a sketchy dude. Like, I'm sorry. Pat Barry's a sketchy dude. I'm not going to say anything, but at the same time, to call anybody who looks at the Pat Barry and Rose Namajunas situation and call them crazy for wondering what's going on, I'm sorry. That's a cope, and he's just trying to get into that group. I mean, that's my biggest problem with Jesse on Fire. It's the complete opposite effect of MMA Guru. If there was a damning secret to the UFC that would cost the UFC a lot of money, and you gave that secret to Jesse on Fire and gave that secret to MMA Guru, the MMA Guru would spill it, because I feel like I put more value into the word of MMA Guru more than Jesse, because I think Jesse wouldn't report on something if it damaged people that were in the industry. That sounds like a knock, but at the end of the day, that is loyalty, but at the same time, it does affect what you're going to say about certain fighters. Anthony Smith has horrific takes. Anthony Smith needs to retire. Jesse on Fire will do nothing but give him credit. That's just facts. I actually put a little bit more. I'm going to put him above MMA Che, just because I feel like he has his stick down. Oh yeah, how about this? I'll put Hoppero in A tier, Jesse on Fire top of B tier. Yes, no, this is a bit better, admittedly. Now I'm going to be switching these out a lot. ESPN MMA. Very. Anything that is mainstream MMA news is just garbage. I'm sorry. There's one that I didn't put on here. Actually, I think I'll probably put it on at the end. There might be a weird edit. But back to ESPN MMA. It's just meh. It's lukewarm. How many people actually got into MMA after watching ESPN MMA? Probably not. You probably watched some of these independent creators, and that's what got you into the sport. Nobody watches ESPN MMA outside of probably watching a whole fight. Like, let's be real here. It's not great. It's D tier. They're a mainstream company that has no soul. I mean, that's just fact. The MMA Zone. Okay. Another one. This is where I really start docking for originality. The MMA Zone is just another one of these channels. But admittedly, it helps me a lot to, like, when I'm making a video, to look at these. However, it feels lazy to me. It feels copy and paste. Look at all of these thumbnails, dude. Color scheme. Like, I get it. It's their brand, but I mean, like, I can't. It bothers me too much. I gotta. That's like, you're barely better than ESPN MMA. I think I might put you in C tier, and I'm probably gonna put you in D tier by the end of it. But if you're going to be unoriginal, at least do it well. Full Mount MMA. Full Mount MMA is very similar to MMA Zone, but Full Mount MMA. They're very similar. Like at the admittedly, very copy and pasty thumbnails. But the thing is, there's just something about Full Mount MMA that I trust a little bit more. I like their interviews. They branch out and do top 10s. I respect that. Okay, this is the highest any of these channels will ever go to keep my credibility. Low B tier. But here's the thing. They out-earn pretty much everybody else on this tier list, aside from maybe MMA Guru, because when he goes viral, he goes viral. Your win is you make more than any of us. But you're just not super original. The Weasle. Yes. I respect the Weasle, and I understand people are going to say you're biased to this, but I don't think he's that biased. I think he's pretty objective. Where I will believe, I think he gets a few things wrong, but maybe that's just my bias, and I sometimes I can't rely on that. I think sometimes when he counts a medium strike, a light strike, that can be very subjective, purely because a light strike can hit you, but if you aren't seeing where a light strike is coming from, that's going to feel like a hard strike. So it's kind of hard to judge unless you're there. But he does as good a job as he possibly can. Where there is a close fight in the MMA community, we all collectively wait for the Weasle to do a breakdown. You don't get to do that unless you have become a cornerstone of this community. Like, we compare other sports analysts, like, even if they're mainstream, to the Weasle. And the Weasle does it best. Like, even if I disagree with him at times, I have to give him credit where credit is due on that front. S tier. Like, I probably watch him more consistently than most people on here just because I know he's going to be pretty informative. Full Mount MMA. Everybody loves Full Mount MMA. Yeah, this is a cornerstone of our community. And if you're new to the sport and you just clicked on this video by mistake, let's look up MMA on point. If you are new to this sport and you want to learn some stuff that you can tell your friends, just watch some of those. Like, these are good videos. Like, good value. They're mainstream. They do fun interviews. Honestly, yeah, no, they deserve their S tier spot, no question. Steven Strangles, people. Okay. I know he's barely in our space, but I'm going to include him because he's a fellow jiu-jitsu guy. Granted, he is infinitely more... He would smoke me in any type of grappling match, okay? So it's kind of weird for me to even say it's like we're in the same level. But he trains with John Danaher. Really cool dude. Fun to watch grapple. And he's a pretty wholesome guy. Like, I agree with a lot of his mantras when it comes to bettering yourself as a man. Like, I agree with him on takes that go beyond MMA into lifestyles. I think he's a good dude overall. But because he's not... Just because I want him to get more recognition, I'm going to put him at the top of A tier. But yeah, he's not going to be up here. If you want to go into like a martial artist lifestyle and something entertaining, I love his bully beatdown videos. Steven Strangles, people, is most definitely an A tier. Chael Sonnen. Okay. People call me Chael Jr., okay? Like, I try not to base everything off of Chael Sonnen. We just talk very similar. I am telling you this is not an act. Like, this is just how I speak. But Chael Sonnen, I feel like, is one of the best yappers in the entirety of sports. ESPN, there's people on ESPN that can't yap as good as him. I remember when my mom watched the first interview of Chael Sonnen, and she was like, bro, this motherfucker got to breathe. Like, I don't know how he does it. He will make a 15-minute video off something that didn't happen, but it's just entertaining. Obviously better, like, I think that's going to be probably an S tier. He's a cornerstone of our community. Like, that is kind of crazy if you think about it. Chael Sonnen's become so big that, yeah, he yaps all the time. Are we still going to tune in? Yep. The one thing I will knock him and why he's going to be at the bottom of our S tier to our high A tier, he admittedly is a little bit of an industry sill. Like, understand, he's not going to say anything too damning to the business because the business put him where he is. He has a desk job at ESPN. Like, he is as close to corporate ESPN as you can possibly get while staying independent. So for that reason, very low S tier. Micheal Bisbing. Now, Michael, this is going to be his YouTube channel, and believe you me, because they're admittedly pretty much the same thing. He beats out Lucas Tracy. Wait. That's tough, actually. I would actually put them near the same. Like, Micheal Bisbing, at least, is, in my opinion, a little bit more entertaining. I think when Lucas Tracy can become admittedly just a little bit too hyperbolic, Micheal Bisbing gets... Like, Micheal Bisbing's an entertaining guy, okay? Does he have bad takes? Yeah. Anthony Smith. Horrific takes. Jim Miller loses to Brock Lesnar. I'm sorry. John Jones is good. I'm sorry again. But Micheal Bisbing, there's some laughs there. I like the beef that he has with MMA Guru. That's a funny thing to me. Yeah, no. I would put them around the same. Sean Strickland's my favorite UFC fighter that has a YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it already... Sean Strickland, YouTube. There we go. Yeah, no, do yourself a favor and watch these. His little podcast that he does with Chris Curtis is like peak entertainment. Easily in our A tier. I'm sorry, Hopper. Strickland beats you out. Like, one of my funniest moments, and it's a small thing, is they had him review the UFC 297 card, and his reaction to seeing the rest of the card is so funny to me, because it's what every, like, fanatical fan is saying. I ain't gonna make any fucking money on this card. There's nobody else fighting. Yeah, no, I like Sean Strickland. Demetrius Johnson. I might have just backed myself into a corner here. Yeah, no, I might have done that. Demetrius Johnson's admittedly an A tier. I kind of have to put him there. I just find him entertaining. Like, he seems like a good dude. Like, well, I mean, entertaining dude, good YouTube channel. I didn't expect to have as much fun as I do watching him do, like, gaming live streams. His reaction to beating, and this goes into, like, gaming stuff, him beating the final boss of Elden Ring is so funny to me because it's a more hyperbolic reaction than when he won the title. So I'm going to say A tier just because, like, there's more A tiers than I expected, but we're all pretty good in our own way. Henry Cejudo. Very, very high B tier. Wait, what the? There we go. Very high B tier. I think he has some of the best breakdowns. Weirdly enough, I would actually put the Weasle above him when it comes to breaking down things, because if you are a fighter in an organization breaking down other fighters in your division, you are admittedly going to be biased. I think he has the IQ that's better than the Weasle, admittedly. But I feel as though sometimes he can be a bit biased. And for that reason, I'm pretty high B tier. MMA Joey. Oh my gosh, let me look this up. MMA Joey is famous for some of the most horrifically bad takes I have ever heard. Seems like a pretty wholesome dude. Sorry for the weird cut there. But no, he has... I agree with him in some of his takes. John Jones vs. Stipe Miocic is a disgrace. Agreed. Also says some other takes that I just frankly just don't agree with. He had one really bad one that was on X. I forget what it is, so I'm not going to quote it. I just don't think he's that great, okay? I think he's better than corporate ESPN. You know what? I'll be nice. I'll be super nice here. Because I feel like he puts more effort than MMA Zone, I'll put him in low C tier. That's as nice as I can possibly be without sacrificing credibility. Like, that's as best as we're going to get. MMA Dose. He's an up-and-coming dude. People keep on recommending them to me. He does pretty good documentaries. Now, admittedly, there's some that's some work to be done. I think he could do a little bit better job on his thumbnails. But, like, actual production value, I think is pretty impressive. Especially for somebody that is as small as he is. Like 17,000 for the work that he puts into his videos. Way more work than I put into mine, admittedly. I mean, I do tier list videos. Honestly, I think if he works on a few more things, I can put him into our middle B tier. I'm gonna put him at our very low B tier. There's work to be done, but at the same time, there's a lot of potential here, and I think he could be really good in the future. I like his documentaries. This gives you the facts. Pretty good production value. Leftlane MMA, another smaller dude that, like, admittedly, I didn't know about him until I started making content. Leftlane MMA, he makes a lot of good tier lists. What I mean by good, I mean pretty creative tier list, admittedly. We have the famous autism tier list, the biggest yappers tier list. Honestly, I like his stick. We both done the soy boy tier list. I did the one that he did. I just didn't know that he made it at the time. Admittedly, though, probably could make some better thumbnails. Like, I'm not a professional thumbnail maker, but at the same time, a little bit of work, and I think we go a long way. He also does pretty good breakdowns when it comes to fights. I think he goes, I'm gonna say, he's either going to be just below... Actually, okay. I'm going to put him just below Lucas Tracy for now, just because I think Lucas has his stick down to a point. Lucas knows why we tune in to Lucas Tracy. I think Leftlane MMA, just because of how far we are down, I'll put him above MMA Joey. How about that? I think that's very fair. The Mac Life. Listen, the Mac Life, if you have ever watched an interview, a snippet of a press conference, that is them. Like, this is them. Like, we need them to be around. They're mainstream, yes, and they aren't making this content themselves, but at the same time, we need them. And for as much as I watch them, honestly, like, yeah, probably a high B tier, in all honesty, just because of how much, like, we rely on them for content. And it is them that is editing these down, finding the interviews, finding the good clips. It's them that's doing it, and I'm going to put respect on them. They miss out on this A and S tier just because it's not your content per se. That's all I'm saying. Full Send MMA. This is the one with the Nelk boys. Listen, it's corporate MMA.
You know, you're in Toronto.
It's corporate MMA. I mean, it is what it is. But at the same time, Nelk is behind it. D tier. I think the UFC fumbled big time by introducing the Nelk boys into MMA. I really do. I think the Nelk boys are probably one of the biggest mistakes the UFC's ever made because they did it to get with the youth. The problem is a lot of the youth can't stand the Nelk boys, so I think it's actually going to backfire. And let's face it, they ask some of the dumbest questions I've ever heard in the entire sport. It annoys me that they get this opportunity more than anybody else, and they still can't afford to do the most bare-bone research to ask questions. I get it, they want to be entertaining, but this is a sport. This is a professional sport. Do some professional work. Myself, I'm just fucking with you. I admittedly can put more work into my content. I think I have better takes than Lucas Tracy, though. Like, honestly, I think I'm gonna put myself the lowest of the B tiers. I think at my best, I'm probably like low A tier. Admittedly, I need to work on some stuff on my own channel, get my consistency up. I can't judge that for other content creators purely because I don't know what their goals are. I don't know what they want their consistency to be. I know what I want mine to be. I want to try to get a video out either every day or every other day. I've been slacking. yeah, I gotta dock myself a little bit. I'm gonna say low B tier. I think that's fair to put me. The Joe Rogan Experience, but what I mean by that, I mean Joe Rogan, the MMA version, like the MMA episodes. Okay. Joe Rogan is slowly becoming a casual fan, but he has become such a great interviewer that... Okay, let me redo these a little bit. Okay, that's better. Yeah, no. Joe Rogan is such a great interviewer when it comes to like interviewing MMA fighters. Even if he is a quote-unquote, like, becoming a casual fan, his skills still transfer. And I've gotten behind fighters that I wouldn't have gotten behind because of him. I appreciate Chito Vera so much more after the Joe Rogan podcast that he did than way before that. Joe Pyfer, he did an interview with Joaquin Buckley. Buckley got a lot of notoriety for that. I mean, like, he does not have to give fighters that are lesser known this opportunity, but he does. And he asks good questions. A tier. Let me get this name right. In all fairness, yeah, I know I spelled that wrong. I'm just want to put this in there. Kiiyon Kimura. Okay. In all honesty, he's not terrible. He's not. I don't mind him, but at the same time, this is one of the most horrifically bad takes I have ever seen in the entirety of MMA YouTube. Yes, I have watched this video. It's not good. It's not good. Why do you... Tyron Woodley is one of the worst examples you can ever use because he wasted his entire career complaining. You want to talk about, oh, well, GSP. John Jones is a legit criminal. If the UFC was actually racist, they would have cut John Jones immediately. How do you explain Israel Adesanya being one of the most fan-favorite fighters? Kevin Holland. They use Kevin Holland as an example of how MMA fighters should be. And you're gonna call the UFC racist. It's, at best, this is to get notoriety for a YouTube video. At worst, this is a horrifically bad take. And honestly, that puts you around like MMA Joey. You're above corporate, but at the same time, like, it's just... Okay, no, better than MMA Joey. Forgive me. That's just a bad take. It really is. I think he makes good content, and... You're at Micheal Bisbing level. How about that? Let's say that. Sean O'Malley. Okay, Sean O'Malley himself is not a great YouTube channel. The podcast that he does with his head coach is pretty entertaining. I am going to put him above me in the MMA Dose. Actually, I'm going to put him above Jesse on Fire, too. In terms of entertainment value that I get out of his podcast, I kind of have to put him there. As far as being an MMA fighter, he's actually like a casual fan. Yes, of course, he understands. Like, I don't think he watches a ton of MMA events. I don't think if he wasn't in the sport, I don't think he would be a fanatical fan. So he's not going to have like the most up-to-date knowledge. But at the same time, he's an entertaining guy. Like, I like his content. Yeah, higher than me on B tier. I would actually say Cejudo's a bit more informative. This is pretty fair. This is pretty subjective at this point. Like, you could put these anywhere. We're about to be done. Freestyle Bender, that's Israel Adesanya's account. There just isn't a whole lot there. Admittedly, there's not a lot here for me to really judge. And in all honesty, I feel like Micheal Bisbing actually puts more effort into his channel than Israel does. Like, let's look at Freestyle Bender. Like, I'm training in Mexico, reactions, grappling with Craig. Like, it's just not... It's not anything special, but it's not... Yeah. Like... It's just not anything crazy, okay? Like, there's other MMA fighters that have just done a better job with it. Like, in my opinion, Micheal Bisbing does a better job. Next up is Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev, in my opinion, probably has one of the better YouTube channels when it comes to just showing off his training. Like, he has good production value, good film staff, looks good, but at the same time, it's not something that you could watch for hours. That's another problem with the Freestyle Bender. You're not going to watch his content for hours. You're just not. But I put a... It's fun if you like watching a lot of training. If you aren't a fan of that, then you're probably not going to like it. And you get to hear a little bit from what's going on from his team. But other than that, there's not a lot. And it's not offering a lot to the conversation like an O'Malley or a Cejudo or Strickland. Like, it just lacks that more. That little bit more. Okay? Corey Sanhagen. Corey Sanhagen has a ridiculously underrated YouTube channel. Like, I'm actually going to look this one up, even though I know Oh my gosh, I spelled Corey Sanhagen wrong. Like, very ridiculous, underrated. He puts out good stuff. I think he has one of the best fight IQs. He puts out, like, actual good stuff if you're learning how to strike. He has a wide plethora of things for many people. He's not as entertaining as an O'Malley. I'm not going to watch him for hours like I would watch an O'Malley. But in terms of knowledge that he offers, yeah, no. I would definitely a middle B tier. A middle B tier is definitely a fair choice to put him. And finally is going to be Paddy Pimblett, but I might add one more. Just because I realized I probably should have put him on here. Paddy Pimblett. Again, if you do not love Paddy Pimblett, you are not going to find anything special on his YouTube channel. Like, there just isn't anything that special. I mean, it's just, hey, here's me. If you really like Paddy, then you'll really like his YouTube channel. Whereas O'Malley, you don't have to love Sean O'Malley's, like, character to enjoy his channel because his coach also carries that podcast. I would say he's above just because of how much effort he puts into it. I'm going to say above Freestyle Adesanya. He's above Khamzat Chimaev. But really, it's just him training and talking about shit and eating stuff. It's a life vlog, and I've never been a fan of vlog channels. The last one that I will add, MMA Hour. Yeah. The MMA Hour hosted by Ariel Helwani. I want to get his one. Okay, I guess I'll just have to put this one on. I am not a fan of Ariel. I'm just not. And I understand it becomes like a taggy thing to not be a fan of Ariel Helwani. But at the same time, there's a reason why not a lot of people are a fan of the guy. And it is because I feel like I appreciate what he does for lesser-known fighters, okay? I do appreciate that when he goes to fighters that aren't super well-known and puts a microphone in front of their face. And there has to be somebody that works against the UFC. But I'm telling you this right now, he is so against the UFC, he is against the UFC for the sake of being against them. The fact that he tried to give Chael Sonnen shit for saying that Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury is not something that should be done again, and saying that he owes him an apology. He doesn't owe you a fucking apology. You did nothing in there. Like, dude, the fact that it worked out is a miracle in and of itself. The fact is, if any other UFC fighter tried to do what Francis Ngannou did, your career is over. You will never fight again. You will be broke by the time that you're 35. So, yeah. Very high D tier. And all, like, it's just, there's such a strong bias against the UFC that I just can't trust him as much as I even trust MMA Joey more than I trust Ariel Helwani. I just feel like there's just such a strong bias. And I think that's going to be it. Your S tiers are going to be, and these are for different reasons. MMA Guru, because he's the guy that pushes the envelope to what you can say and it's acceptable. If somebody gets canceled, it's going to be the MMA Guru. Like, you get an S tier for that. The Weasle, he has the best fight breakdowns in the business. MMA On Point, probably just best all around. They offer the biggest arsenal of MMA content. And Chael Sonnen, because he's the best yapper out of everybody right here. I think I did pretty well. Tell me if you think I'm off on anywhere. I tried to be fair with my own rating. I think I'm pretty middle of the board. I think I did pretty good on here. Tell me what you think about this in the comment section below. Adios, guys. Thank you for watching.